Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. This is Ms. Jenny, and I am your astrologer. This video is the video monthly horoscope for February 2024. Okay, so we're going to start this particular monthly video off with a list of the transneptunians and Chiron and the North Node placements for the month, because they will be used later to give us a little bit more illumination of what's going on in the world. Okay, in our world, as it were. All right, so the first thing is we have Chiron and the North Node both in Aries very close together. And this is bringing, its challenges. So with the Aries energy, and we've already been through this with January 6th a few years ago, with the Aries energy, it brings forth this this need to address issues of being brave and taking a stand for things and being having courage. With Chiron there's always an issue of, honestly, feeling like a coward or like you don't have it within you to stand up for something, right? So these are lifelong issues with people with the Chiron and Aries placements. So, and it could be something as simple as having the courage to stand up and do public speaking, which for a lot of people is terrifying. Or it could be something as almost seemingly not a non-issue for some people as standing up to your parents. Whatever this thing is, the Aries experience, especially Chiron in Aries, draws forth the need for us to literally stare down the dragon and go deal with it. Like, what is it? Face the bears. So, the trick with these things is identifying what it is that we really need to be standing up for or against. So typically with Chiron and Aries, what you get are people who pick straw man dummies to fight with. They go fight with scarecrows instead of the real thing. And we're going to see a lot of that while Chiron is in Aries, where people will look for substitutes for the thing that they're actually needing to stand up to. So, for example, if a man grew up with an overbearing mother or an overbearing aunt or grandmother, just an overbearing female in the family, it could be an older sister. So just stay with me for a second here. And grew up with a very overbearing female in his family that had a tremendous impact on him and his development or his identity development as a man, how he sees himself as a man or doesn't see himself as a man. As he gets older, these relationships with this woman, whoever or women, won't necessarily change, even though he's changed. He's grown into an adult. So some of the relationship dynamics will remain. At some point in this person's life, he has to face the bears. He's got to go deal with the power imbalance in this relationship that has had such a negative effect on his psyche. He's got to go like stand his ground with this overbearing female actor that he's been having a relationship with through his life. Now, here's where it gets tricky, right? Because I know a lot of grown men who had mothers who were feminists back in the 70s, in the 80s. So when they were very young, their mothers were embracing the new women's lib and feminism and all that sort of stuff. And, just because you adopt something, as we've seen with the Republican Party, doesn't necessarily mean that you're adopting the best sides of something. So these particular people I'm thinking of specifically, because I only know a couple of them, in their adulthood, they've developed a real resentment and a resentment of women and a real anger towards feminism and women's lib, because clearly it's all their fault. The reality is, even though they're big roosters puffing up their chest and like gorillas beating their chest trying to seem big and powerful and dominating of women, because women shouldn't do that, these guys are really toxic. The one thing, if you actually were able to see them in their personal relationships with the women in their family or whoever this particular woman was that had such a deleterious effect on their psyche, they were still cowering and kowtowing to this woman. They still weren't standing up to her. So what would happen is these guys will go find other women to serve as a proxy to beat down and beat up and push into the mud and humiliate and make small so that they could feel big and recover what they feel was their lost manhood, because they still weren't able to address the real issue in their life, which was this specific person and their specific relationship with this person, and taking a stand with this person and asserting themselves as an equal with this person. So rather than deal with that, they take it all out, they project it on the other women and take it all out on them. Women do the same thing, right, with the men in their lives or with other women. There's a number of different ways to express yourself, but ultimately the thing with the Chiron and Aries is that there is a tendency, if we're not careful, to project all this wound up frustration and developmental stuff that we've got to work through onto other people that have nothing to do with where the problem actually is inside of ourselves. We have to take that back to the source, or you're basically just shadowboxing with a bunch of unsuspecting people that have no idea why you're taking all this aggression and hostility and toxic behavior out on them. So when we're dealing with people moving forward, especially with the North Node here, emphasizing this, right? Because that North Node is really opening up the doors to this stuff in people's psyches, whether they're paying attention to it or not. Understand that a lot of what we may be seeing may be literally people projecting their personal crap onto everyone but the person they need to be dealing with. Okay, not just themselves, but the other person who helped contribute to this condition that they're having right now. Could be you, could be people around you, but that's kind of what we're dealing with. So with the North Node and the Chiron so close together like this, we're going to see a lot of this, and we're going to see a lot, oh my God, way too much, because I'm so done with all of this. A lot of chest beating on the parts of men, right? An overcompensation for what they feel is their lost manhood. So the whole domineering bullying, because Aries is a bully. I hate to break it to you kids, but Aries can be a bully. Domineering, bullying, power for power's sake, the competing just to compete, so because there's only winners or losers in the Aries mind, right? We may see an exaggeration of this as this continues. So be aware of that. The whole time North Node and Chiron have been in Aries close to each other like this, we've been dealing with it. And while they're close together through the month of February, it's just more of the same. So there's Chiron and the North Node. Woohoo! All right. Now, the next trans-Neptunian we have is Poseidon at 16 Scorpio. And Poseidon is reputed to have it's reputed to have the best effects of Neptune. So kind of like a super powerful Neptune on steroids with none of the bad effects, right? Because Poseidon is the light bringer. So Poseidon is very much about illumination and bringing the light and transcendence, right? Getting to the higher level of Christ consciousness, all that beautiful stuff that we're supposed to be aspiring to. While Poseidon is in Scorpio and retrograde, it is giving us an opportunity to go through the muck, right? To dig deep into our proverbial crap, as it were, and get really honest with ourselves and clean ourselves up, to rinse our brains and rinse our psyches and wash our souls and hearts and rediscover and identify who we were before all the crap covered us, And Poseidon will be playing some important roles later in the month as well. We're going to get to that. Apollon is here. It's at 6 Scorpio. Apollon is about community and commercial market-based things. Apollon is retrograde in Scorpio. I would expect that with Apollon retrograde in Scorpio like this, that we may also be looking at some issues with economics globally, not just locally. And also, too, Apollon is squaring Vulcanus at 3 Leo. So there's going to be a tremendous pressure this month when it comes to resources, physical resources, in terms of keeping markets going, keeping business going, keeping the economy going. So we need money to live, because we don't live in a magical land where we can barter everything away. So money and resources are always a thing. But this particular month, with these two trans-Neptunians squaring each other, it's putting the underscore or the spotlight on the pressure and power, the pressure to power or overpower, to dominate and claim resources. Both of these planets, well, not planets, but Vulcanus is very much about power and domination and authority. Okay, and strength and might. Like Vulcanus is the giant in the room. Like you don't mess with Vulcanus. Vulcanus will pick you up and sit you down. And Apollon, of course, the commerce, community, marketplace, economics, things of that nature. But it is in the sign of Scorpio, which is also a sign that symbolizes power and power grabs. So we may see these two being very operative, creating a real sense of, again, we're back to this business of domination and overbearing behavior and power grabs. So we may be seeing that, more of that as we're going along. Zeus will be at 24 Libra. Zeus is right here. Zeus will be conjunct the fixed star Arcturus. And Zeus gives us the opportunity and the vision of penultimate success and wealth. Now, this can play out one of a couple ways depending on our level of evolution. On the one hand, it could give people an overwhelming sense or desire to achieve enormous wealth, as if we don't have enough billionaires. Like we're looking at trillionaires at this point, right? You know, the competition to see who can be the wealthiest. Or Zeus conjunct Arcturus can give us a model of what is in medicine they call it best practices. The best practice for handling success and how success is defined, which is not everything for ourselves, but what is fair and right for everyone. You know, the thing to remember, especially when it comes to business, like nobody's going to fault anyone for wanting to make a profit. It's good when a business is successful or a business venture is successful and you can make more money than you expected, because it means you're doing really well, right? You're being given the rewards for doing something really well that makes people want more of what you have to offer. Nobody's going to fault anyone for that. That's a good thing. It's a symbol that you're doing something right. The thing about business, though, is that business, when it starts making its profits and starts reinvesting, well, it's supposed to reinvest back into the business. It's also supposed to reinvest back into the community that helped it achieve its success. Because remember, it's the community in the form of the workforce that does the labor to help the business run, and the community that purchases the services and goods that help keep the business in existence, that allows this business to achieve success. So a lot of that profit is not supposed to funnel upward, you know, to the shareholders and the owners and the CEOs, and that's it. And everybody else gets the crumbs, and with absolutely no consideration about how to feed or take care of or nurture the community that supports this business. That money is supposed to be reinvested back into the business to make the business better, and also reinvested back into the community, because it is the community that makes the business successful. What we haven't been seeing in a very long time is profits being reinvested back into the communities. And part of, you know, the thing with the taxes, so you know, the reason taxing the wealthy or taxing corporations is so very important is because that's how the profit gets redistributed back to the community that helps that business, corporation, individual be as wealthy as they are. Okay, they're not growing money on trees. There are people contributing to this massive accumulation of excess money. It's supposed to go back to the community. So Zeus in conjunct the fixed star Arcturus at 24 Libra may be giving us a more heightened focal point about what it is we consider success. Is success the big money grab? You know, ooh, more for me, more for me, more for me? Or is success about what is fair? Okay, not only to ourselves, because we've earned this, we've made something that's very good and we're being rewarded for it, but also for the community that helped us become this successful. So that may be a big thing this month. Admetos is at 3 Gemini, and Admetos comes up in some peculiar places this month, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Admetos, again, has a lot to do with power and strength, but Admetos more specifically has a lot to do with things that come to a standstill or a stop, things that become obstructed. So admetos is about the concentration or the blockage of energy or effort. So we'll keep an eye on that. And you can look all of these transneptunians up on the internet and read up more about them if you'd like. Cupido is at 7 Capricorn, and it'll also be prominent this month. Cupido is definitely about community as well as relationships and social engagements and also social commitments, the things that we do to give back to society, because these are the prices we have to pay for living in society, to be civilized, right? Cupido has everything to do with community and marriage and social contracts. So Cupido, again, at 7 Capricorn will be playing a fair amount of activity this month, and we'll see how that plays out as well. And then, of course, Hades and Kronos have been traveling together for a while. Hades has to do with everything that we don't want to deal with or look at. It has to do with deep psychology and all the dirty, horrible things about yourself you don't want to face. It has a lot to do with trauma. It has a lot to do with garbage dumps. Hades is everything and anything that you just don't want to have to deal with, you know, which includes the things that occur that give us PTSD and or PTSD itself. Kronos, this is Hades, Kronos has to do with the highest standard possible. So the two together literally give us one extreme or the other. So Kronos is the gold bar standard, is the height of measurement that we use to determine the absolute best we can achieve at something. It is the master of something, right? The gold standard. When you have Hades and Kronos together, you literally get two extremes. You get the darkest of dark and the lightest of light. You get the lowest of low and the highest of high. You have this two sides of a coin dynamic operating that takes you literally from one extreme to the other. So Hades and Kronos have a lot to do with the measures by which we gauge other things. And it also has a lot to do with, you ready? Our moral compass, you know, and what we consider, you know, the highest of high and the lowest of low in terms of our behaviors and our values. So this Hades and Kronos have been together for a while. They keep traveling together. We're going to have, you know, more of that also to look for with Hades and Kronos, look for as they continue traveling, look for more breakthroughs in terms of medicine and medical treatments and some really breakthrough stuff happening. So we may not hear about it because it takes a while for it to get to the news. Like they actually have to, you know, make sure everything's working the way they want it to. And also too, like our news cycles are bombarded by the more salacious, you know, colorful things. So science and medicine breakthroughs are not necessarily going to be the first thing that pops up on a newsfeed unless you follow those types of articles. Anyway, so those are our transneptunians. Now let's take a look at everything else. Alrighty, well, the month is starting off like a firecracker. Holy crap. And that's exactly what I said when I set the chart for this quarter moon. So on February 2nd, 2024, we will have a quarter moon at 13 Scorpio. Okay, so right there is our quarter moon. Now, this says 18, but it's okay. Just back it up a day, right? So this is still a quarter moon. Now, this particular quarter moon is not just a quarter moon. Oh no, this particular quarter moon is also a T-square because it sets up a T-square configuration. Actually, it sets up a grand cross, but we're going to get to that in a second. So the quarter moon right here at 13 Scorpio, quarter moons always unlock or break open or create action. Decisions are made and things happen under quarter moons, okay? The thing that is challenging about this particular quarter moon is that it's also going to involve Uranus and create a T-square, which I'm not loving. This particular quarter moon, it's in the fixed signs. These are power signs. It's in the middling degrees of the fixed signs, which concentrates the power even more. And Uranus is involved, which is always very explosive and abrasive. And normally Uranus can be really good and, you know, very refreshing, right? The refreshing honesty. But in this particular case, it's not refreshing. It is challenging, and the struggle is real. The struggle is real. So we can absolutely expect some over the top or really, I hate to use the word, but some almost violent or actual violent over the top responses as part of major power plays around this time. So the beginning of February is getting off on a really hot foot, and this is further complicated or emphasized by the fixed star Zubin el-Janubi, which is where the moon is for this quarter moon. So the quarter moon's at 13 Scorpio, Zubin el-Janubi is at 15 Scorpio. 13 Scorpio's quarter moon, Zubin el-Janubi, the fixed star, is at 15 Scorpio. Zubin el-Janubi is not a fixed star that you want being active. It is a malevolent, ugly, nasty, warmongering, hostile, sociopathic fixed star. I don't like it. I don't like it in natal charts, and I definitely don't like it in monthly reports. In a natal chart, if you see Zubin el-Janubi, this is somebody who is capable of much darker things than you would give them credit for, or that they may even realize about themselves. This is not to say that people with Zubin el-Janubi in their natal chart are walking sociopaths or potential psychopaths. But it is to say that if the right buttons are pushed and the right circumstances are presented, they can go there. Oh, they can go there, and they can go there faster, deeper, and for much longer and much, much more aggressive ways than you would ever have expected from them. So I'm not a fan of this particular fixed star. Normally it's very quiet in a chart and it lays dormant because, again, it needs the right circumstances and the right buttons being pushed to activate it. But the potential is there. Now, what's interesting, however, and so don't panic, what's interesting about this is that while Zubin el-Janubi, this monster fixed star, is involved in this quarter moon, Poseidon, remember we talked about the transneptunians, Poseidon is right there with Zubin el-Janubi, and Poseidon has nothing to do with aggression and hostility and malevolence and none of that. That is not, remember, Poseidon is everything good about Neptune without any of the downside, right? No fillers, no artificial preservatives. So you've got this planet, or transneptunian planetoid, that represents light, the light bringer, with this god-awful fixed star, which is death, destruction, war, and warmongering, and psychopathy in action. And we've got this quarter moon happening, right? That's all about the giant freaking power play, right? And in the most unpleasant ways possible, because Uranus doesn't really know a lot in terms of restraint once it gets triggered. The thing about Uranians and Aquarians, either, right, strong Uranus or Aquarius, is that they're normally not difficult people to be around. I mean, they're difficult to deal with because they're usually a little too honest. So don't ask them if something makes you look fat. They'll tell you the truth. But when they lose their stuff, when they finally lose their stuff, they are terrifying because you never see it coming, and it's literally like a storm that blows up out of nowhere that destroys everything within reach. Terrifying. And this is what we have as part of this quarter moon, which we're not loving, right? And that fixed star, Zubin el-Janubi, which further emphasizes this destructive quality of this Uranus T-square that we're looking at here. Now, but the question becomes, what the heck are we doing with this? Why is Poseidon here? What does that mean? Well, remember we talked about Hades and Kronos being literally one extreme and the other, the highest of high, the lowest of low, the darkest of dark, the lightest of light. That extreme, one extreme, the other. So Poseidon and Zubin el-Janubi is the same dynamic, right? The highest of high, the lowest of low. So these two together are going to create situations where people will rise to or sink down to the highest or lowest expression available to them, and it will be a choice. It will be a choice. So we may see the very best and the very worst of people around this quarter moon at the beginning of the month, February 2nd. So be aware and try not to let that be you. Try not to give in to your lower nature. Now, at the same time, because the fun never stops around here, the party's not over yet, we have another fixed star, Acubens, at 13 Leo, also involved in this configuration. So now we've just gone from a T-square to a grand cross. So now, my friends, it's a party. Or not, as the case may be. So with Acubens is also another god-awful fixed star. It's aggressive, it's malevolent, it's mean, evil, and nasty, right? There's nothing happy or good or kind or uplifting about Acubens. So we've got that. We've got Zubin El Janubi. We've got this T-square with Uranus, right? This is literally all happening at the same time, and they're all involved in a grand cross configuration with each other. So what that would suggest is the beginning of this month, this first week of February, where if it doesn't happen before we get to the quarter moon, certainly around February 2nd on this quarter moon, we're looking at some serious, very hostile behavior from folks. And remember we talked about Chiron and that North Node in Aries, and this thing about people projecting their crap on other people because they're still too cowardly to deal with the thing that's actually the issue in their life, right? That is what we're going to be dealing with this first week. So be aware of that. Now, we've got a lot of critical degrees activation this month. So the first one, we've got Venus at a critical degree, a 13 Capricorn, and we also have Mercury at a critical degree. Mercury's at 27, the critical degree is 26. And with critical degrees, at least for the purposes of this chart, what it does is it heightens or overemphasizes the nature of the planet and its function. So with Venus at a critical degree of 13 Capricorn, it's going to hyper emphasize Venusian things, which are going to be, again, money, right? Assets, resources, wealth. It's also going to be women, right? And because it's in Capricorn, what I would look for is, the emphasis on women and their roles in society, and more specifically tradition, because Capricorn is there. So we may find that this first week of the month really gets off on a hot foot and includes the themes and discussions, really heated, critical discussions about women and their role in the world, and traditional or old-fashioned ideas about what they're supposed to be based on what somebody told them, because Capricorn is all about the hierarchy, top-down management, versus what makes the most sense and what is the most pragmatic and realistic, because that's also Capricorn too. The other is Mercury. Mercury is here at 27 Capricorn. The critical degree is at 26. And again, this emphasizes or further emphasizes the mercurial functions. So what I would look for with Mercury at a critical degree, things that come into the Mercury auspices or Mercury rulership to be hyper emphasized. So communications, obviously. Transportation, obviously. And we've already come through this weirdness here in the United States with these airplanes that people weren't putting together correctly. We got some real scary people working in these plants, manufacturing these things. Anyway, but Mercury also has to do, Mercury also has to do with the internet, as does Uranus. So one of the things that I would keep an eye on is discussions or affairs or issues specific to the internet and communication, right? Also journalism, because Mercury is journalism and Uranus is the truth bringer, right? And leave it to a journalist, keep you honest. So these things may come up as very, very important things. Also, too, with Mercury and Uranus like this, Mercury at a critical degree and Uranus and Taurus being part of this grand cross, some things that I would look for also are more conversations that are focused on youth, not babies that have not been born yet, not that insanity, but specifically the children that are here. And Mercury, if I'm not mistaken, rules children up to the age of, I think, just like adolescence, like just before puberty. So very young children may be something, for whatever reason, and we'll see, that becomes very, very important and critical and a hot topic this first week of the month. Alrighty, so after this, of course, we get to the new moon at 20 Aquarius. The new moon at 20 Aquarius will occur February 9th, 2024. The new moon is here, okay? And again, there's that Uranus. This particular new moon is going to square Uranus, and now we're back to Poseidon, and we're setting up a T-square with Poseidon. So whatever this static and insanity that we're dealing with, that we're getting clobbered with this first week of February coming into the month, we're not getting a break from it. So you can expect your nerves to continue to stay jarred and taut like a violin string well into the second week of the month. The new moon squaring Uranus promises suggests some shocking revelations. Now, the thing about it is, because this new moon is also involving Poseidon, which is the light bringer, right? The illuminator. So you have the transneptunian, which is about illumination or bringing light to something, with Uranus, which also is like lightning. It brings light to situations. It's also an illuminator. What I would expect with these two, just by themselves, I would expect things to be revealed, things to be brought to light, right? Things to be clarified, right? Clear vision, clarity of vision. People thinking and seeing clearly for a change. And because it's involving the new moon, what I would look for also is a whole new cycle. This plants seeds and starts a whole new cycle moving forward. So we're beginning things at this point, not closing them out. And even if it looks like you're closing it out, we're actually starting something. Now, what's also interesting and important about this particular new moon and these light bringers that it's involved with is it is sitting also at a critical degree. So the new moon's at 20, the critical degree is 21. We will give it that 1 degree orb. And again, it emphasizes, critical degrees emphasize the nature of the planet. With a new moon, we are starting new cycles. We're setting into place setting into motion new patterns or cycles or whatever, seasons, whatever you want to call it, new projects. That we are starting out with brand new things at this point. We're planting seeds for future things. So whatever it is that we're dealing with under this new moon that's going to pull in Poseidon and Uranus, the light bringer and the truth bringer, right? It's going to be uncomfortable because, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, it's all going to be uncomfortable, but it will be extremely important and necessary for our survival and our growth. Now, because, oh my gosh, the fixed star, Ras Elisad Australis, is at 20 Leo, and now it sets up a grand cross with these planets. So we just came through a grand cross like a week ago, right, with that quarter moon. Now we're moving into a new moon, and instead of getting a break from that grand cross energy, which has all the force and subtlety and easiness of Thor's hammer coming down, we're taking that same force and not so subtle impact, and we're bringing it right to the new moon. Okay, so right here we've got this big honking grand cross now involving a fixed star, Ras Elisad Australis. And we know that the new moon is emphasized because it's at a critical degree. Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay. But what does that tell us? What do we know about Ras Elisad Australis? Well, I hate to be the person to tell you this, but Ras Elisad Australis is yet another fixed star that is not nice and kind and friendly and sweet. It is, in fact, just like, or not just like, but a lot like the other two fixed stars we had previously. It is bombastic, it is cruel, it is domineering, warmongering, aggressive, or ham-fisted. Ugh. Ras El Assad Australis is connected to military action, but it's military action in terms of, well, just literally conquering and rendering and all sort of stuff. And obviously, if there's the military involved, and we're in that kind of a conflict where you need the military, you're going to want people who can stand up to the challenge of overpowering another opponent to subdue them. I get it. I totally get it. But this is not a boxing match, and this is not, the cosmic bouncer like pushing people out of the bar. This is just not great, and this energy everybody feels. So, with that in mind, it's going to be challenging. I don't have anything easier to say about that. The tendency and the unconscious desire is going to be to fight, to get into battle with anyone and everything. And again, going back to that Chiron and North Node in Aries, who are we really fighting? Like, are we really mad at this person, this group of people, this thing? Or are we taking out on them all this anger and hostility and frustration and blah, 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 because we're too much of a coward to face the monsters we really need to face that are still out there that we're still not dealing with, right? So this is not, I don't know, it's just not going to be fun. It's just not going to be fun. Now, the upside, the upside is that Jupiter is also at a critical degree. So Jupiter and Jupiter's functions will be emphasized. The good news in here is that Jupiter is about higher principles, or it should be in theory, right? It's about the bigger picture. It's about higher principles. It's about ethics. It's about doing the right thing. It's about, the far and wide vistas ahead of us, not getting stuck in the muck and mire here. And certainly not, Jupiter is not about being spiteful or petty. So there is the chance that, higher principles may be driving a lot of us to make better decisions, but there's a whole lot of hostile energy that's operating all through this new moon, and we're going to have to navigate very carefully if we want to turn the volume down on the negative stuff and, try as best we can to turn the volume up a little bit more, as much as we can get away with on the positive things. So we're going to get into that in a second. And all of this brings us to the crescendo of this particular cosmic symphony in the middle of the month around Valentine's Day. So on February 16th, 2024, we will have a quarter moon at 27 Taurus. This particular quarter moon will be conjunct the fixed star Algol. So what do we need to know about that? Well, a couple things. So the first thing is that this quarter moon will close out whatever conflicts or issues we have been wrangling with since the beginning of the month. So all this static and harem scarum craziness, and certainly maybe even life-threatening stuff, whether it's by life-threatening issues by man or life-threatening issues by nature, and Mother Nature. All of these things are going to reach a pinnacle crescendo point around this quarter moon on the 16th. So whatever we're dealing with, we should be able to reach the top of that mountain and do whatever it is we need to do and have that come to culmination, and whatever it is, like, leave it there, right? Hopefully. Now, this particular quarter moon will be involving the fixed star Algol. Now, there are a lot of people who would say, based on the old mythical astrologers and historians, because Algol is Medusa's star, that Algol has connections to female hysteria and, people losing their head and, madmen and all sorts of really unpleasant associations, because as Medusa's star, we look to the mythology of Medusa to understand the nature of this particular fixed star. The problem with the mythology of Medusa, and I did a video about this, the mythology of Medusa is a story that is written by men through the lens of perception of men. And the reality is that if you step back and you look at it again through the eyes of a woman, Medusa and her mythology is a story of a woman who survives a sexual assault recovers from it, literally the whole process of what a woman's psyche goes through after sexual assault, who recovers from it and then reclaims herself and becomes even stronger and a champion for other people as a result of becoming whole and healing again. So for the people who used to write these stories, and the old astrologers who were all men, of course, and this is well into the 1920s, any expression of anger on a woman's part, any expression of frustration, any expression that was assertive or masculine was considered a hysterical response. It was never seen for what it was. If a man exhibited the same behaviors, the same frustration and anger, and rage, it would be seen as an expression of power. But when a woman does it, it was historically seen as hysteria. There was something wrong with her. She was crazy. So, and of course, hysteria has to do with hyster, or the womb, the female womb. So it was believed that it was the woman's womb that was making her nuts. Hyster is also the prefix for hysterectomy. So that's just a real quick thing about Medusa and Algol being Medusa's star. So Algol has to do also, it's not all bad, although you'd be hard pressed to find any references to it. Algol also has to do with wealth, and it has to do with female power and female empowerment, right? Women will figure very, very strong and prominently at this time, as they should, and unfortunately are going to need to. Not completely sure what circumstances are going to bring all of this into play, but when we get down to the middle of the month, around Valentine's Day, women are going to need to rise up, or I'm sorry, women will rise up, but it will be because they've been put in a position where they don't have any other choice but to be even louder and more visible and, frankly, a little bit more intimidating than they would under any other circumstance, because they won't be given a better choice. So that will be interesting to watch. Now, critical degrees, we have Jupiter, which is going to be at a critical degree, right? So Jupiter is at 9 Taurus, critical degree is 8. Okay, and again, this is good because the critical degree emphasizes the nature of the planet, and Jupiter has to do with morals and ethics and bigger picture stuff, rising above the petty, all the good things. So we like that we've got Jupiter at a critical degree while all of this is going on, because man, oh man, oh man. Also, too, we will have Venus, Mars, and Pluto all traveling together almost exact. They've got like a 2-degree orb between them at this time. Now, Venus, Pluto, and Mars will really, it's really going to turn the heat level up on everybody's passions, right? Romantic and otherwise. So the heat levels are going to be off the charts in terms of people's feelings, right? Especially their passionate ones. So, and this is the thing, like if women are backed in the corner and forced to be louder and more visible and more intimidating than they would be at any other time, with this Venus, Mars, Pluto conjunction riding like that, further emphasizing turning the heat levels up to like 1,000 on people's feelings, it's going to be scary. So for those of you who are dating or mating and in relationships, this could be a really interesting time. So breakups will be more dramatic, makeups will be even more passionate. Some of you may be rekindling and recommitting to each other, in big, big ways. And some of you may find that there's just, this is, war, basically. It's the beginning of a war between the two of you. Although I would certainly ask that you find a better way to do things than going to war with each other. But this is very much going to be a make it or break it time in a lot of relationships. And not just romantic ones. It could also be relationships that are familial, right? Make it or break it moments in terms of our family relationships, and also our community relationships. So people that have relationships with their community leaders, business people, business owners, politicians, educators, instructors, bureaucrats, all those people whose job involves having a good working relationship with their community may also find at this time that this is also a make it or break it time for them. There will be no excuses anymore. Okay, now this particular stellium, right, Venus, Mars, Pluto, what's interesting about it is that, again, we have a T-square, but it's not involving the lights. In this particular case, the heat is off. I mean, we don't need any more heat added to this. Good grief. So the heat's kind of, we've got two things going on the burners at the same time. So Venus, Mars, Pluto will be in a T-square with Vulcanus, as well as Apollon. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. And again, let me think about this. So Venus, Mars, Pluto, Vulcanus, and Apollon. This is literally dividing up the pot. I don't know what this means or how this is going to play out in personal lives or in the big meta picture, but this is very much about carving out the treasures, right? Divvying up the treasures. So there will be a carving of assets that will be taking place. Oof, oh my. At this time, and this will not be an amicable division of resources. This will be fractious at best. So imagine if you're getting divorced, this is when you sit down, you start dividing up your assets as part of the divorce proceedings. It's going to be that kind of conversation and that kind of tone and feeling as these things are negotiated between parties. So in your personal life, you may find that negotiations and discussions are more intense than you could have been prepared for. And certainly challenging, to say the least. Remember, passionate feelings are, the heat is turned off on them by 1,000%. And it could also be that as we watch this in the world, that this carving up or dividing the booty, as it were, that the spoils of, war will not be so amicable or or easy. Now, what is good with this is for those of you who are out and do things that involve, entertaining or feeding the passions and attention of the public. So sports figures, entertainers, people who do things that specifically give people an outlet for their overwhelming feelings will do really, really well at this time. For those of you who do watch sports and like to go to sports games, I personally wouldn't go to a sports game like in person around now because people are more likely to get hurt because sports fans are nuts to begin with. But just know that at this time, like feelings and this roar kind of thing, it's all going to be over the top, way over the top. But also, too, this is the crescendo for the month. So once we get past this quarter moon, it's literally all downhill and easy from here, which sounds crazy because we're heading into a full moon. But honestly, compared to this week, the full moon is going to be a piece of cake. And this brings us to the end of the month. This is the full moon at 5 Virgo on February 24th. So this particular full moon is interesting. It's going to be in the mutables. And here's what we're looking at. So the full moon in Virgo is going to involve, obviously, the sun. It's a full moon. But it's also going to involve Mercury. And it's just going to reach out and hit Saturn. So technically, we're going to have a full moon involving Mercury and Saturn. Now, the thing about this particular full moon with this Mercury-Saturn involvement, Mercury is burned up by the sun. It's literally under the sun. It's under the sun. It's just French fried. So the Mercury is very weak. So communication and clear thinking may not be as strong and clear as we would like it to be. And Mercury also disposits the moon, which is what we don't want. So women may be at a disadvantage at this time. The general public, the common man, may be at a disadvantage, almost like we're muted, right? We're under the thumb of the people in power. And also, too, communications are not going to be as easily or enthusiastic as they normally would. What could also happen at this time, I really don't like the people being at a disadvantage here, like the common person being at a disadvantage, but what this could also mean, because Virgo is the sign of servants, this could also mean that people who are in positions of being of service to other people, the personal assistants, the secretaries, the housekeepers, the cooks, the daycare attendants, people who provide service to people in power may at this time be more privy to secrets and sensitive information that they wouldn't otherwise have access to more easily right now. So for those of you who are in positions of power that have things you don't want other people knowing about or sharing freely with the help, this would be a really good time to keep your mouth shut. And for those of you who do that kind of work where you are, the servant or service person, as it were, providing service to a singular individual or singular individuals, plural, groups of people. This is, if you're looking for information that the public doesn't have access to, this is the time to get it. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not recommending you do this, but I'm just saying a whole lot of stuff's going to slip out. People aren't paying attention to. Now, at the same time, because Saturn is also involved with this full moon, right? Saturn's here. Okay. Saturn in Pisces has been doing such a job of doing karmic kick-ass work. Oh my God, who saw this coming, right? So with Saturn there, this is going to be a very sobering time. This particular full moon is a sobering full moon. It is literally the morning after when you're looking around the house going, holy crap, what the hell did we do last night? That's the kind of feeling we're getting with this full moon. Because the party's over, it's definitely time to clean up now, and we've got to take stock of the damage we've done. Now, with this said, this particular Saturn, it's wide, but it's there, right, is in exact square to Antares, the fixed star. And again, because this whole month has just been not a happy party month, Antares is again another belligerent, masculine, hyper-aggressive, malevolent fixed star. It is not a happy star. So what I would expect with this particular full moon configuration, and with Saturn and Antares so closely linked together with this full moon, I would expect to see a major fall from grace for someone or many someones at very, very high levels. So the karmic clock is a ticking, and it will go ding, you're done right about this time on that full moon. So let's keep an eye on that and see what happens, because this will be important and it will be necessary, but it will not be easy or fun, and I wouldn't want to be the person getting knocked off my pedestal here, or my high horse, as the case may be. Now, with this particular full moon also, the full moon, right, is definitely going to, that's such a bad drawing. This is Admetos. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's Admetos. So the full moon, while all this is going with Antares and Saturn, the full moon is also pulling in Admetos. Okay, so we've kind of got a wide grand cross happening here, or two T-squares, depending on how you look at it. With Admetos, remember, Admetos things rules blockages and obstacles, things that come to full stops, right? Things that you cannot pass, your impasses. Hard stops, running into the wall at 120 miles an hour. Bang! You're done, baby. You're done. So this further emphasizes the suggestion that there's going to be something that's coming to a complete end of the line, stop, fall from grace around this full moon. I'm not sure what that is. It will be interesting to see how this plays out, but we can expect some really shattering events happening at this time. That's going to put a full stop on someone or something, or someone's plural and some things. Okay. This month in critical degrees, we have the moon. Now, the critical degree for the mutable signs is 4 degrees. The moon is at 5. We're going to give it that. We're going to give it that 1 degree orb. So the sun and the moon are both in critical degrees, are on the critical degree at 4, which really further emphasizes this full moon. And for the way I'm seeing this is what it's saying, because the full moon is about balance and equality. This full moon with sitting at the critical degree, right, absolutely emphasizes this business about bringing things back into equilibrium. Was it balancing the karmic scales? Ooh, man, somebody is really, really going to get a big karmic comeuppance here. Now, so here's what I want you guys to keep in mind also, though. When we look at this, event situations are people that really get the karmic boot up their butt during this full moon. This is not just about them. When this happens, for whatever reason, these people are going to be very important to all of us and all of our evolution, because it's about a bigger picture here. So whatever it is that they symbolize or represent in the big picture for everybody else, this is what this full moon and this whole like end of the line, buddy, we're done here, right, is going to represent. I'm really keen to find out who or what that's going to be. So let's all keep an eye on that. Also, our critical degrees this month will be Venus and Mars, okay, at 8 to 9. Venus and Mars are traveling together, which makes this a very, very sexy time. Well, I mean, you know, sexy, good or bad, depending on how you're feeling about it. But certainly, again, this whole business about heightened passion, this heightened libido is absolutely going to be in full force at this time. So for those of you who are of reproductive ages, given this hands-made tale, wackadoodle evangelical knuckleheads are trying to take over the country, and it basically eliminated, you know, reproductive rights in a whole lot of places. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're of reproductive ages, this month is an absolute critical month that you use birth control and extra birth control. Double up and triple up and use 4 different kinds if you have to. This is not the time that you want to get pregnant if it's not what you wanted to do. Okay, this whole year and last year, it's not good. But the reason I'm mentioning this now is because Venus and Mars are traveling together. So libidos and impulsive action are very, very heightened. Spontaneous kind of chemical reactions with other people are also heightened. Listen, all these things are beautiful things. It's part of what makes life spicy and piquant. And it's one of the things that makes you so much fun when we have it. But you don't need to end up with an unwanted pregnancy in the process. So do your due diligence, boys and girls, and use double up on your protection for both of you. Okay, enjoy your youth while you have it. Don't. Oh dear God, not in this day and age right now, especially around here. Don't put yourself in a position to live out a handmaid's tale nightmare. Okay, so that's what we got with Venus and Mars. So for those of you who are practicing responsibly and know how to take care of business so that you don't get hung up in those kinds of drama traps, this is going to be a really, really sexy month. For the rest of you, it's going to be a little dicey, you know, so be careful. Taking risks and spontaneity is not going to get you the results you're hoping for or that you think you're going to get out of. And for everybody else who's not into that as much, you'll still be feeling a little bit of a buzz, right? And a desire to get out and socialize and be in connection with other people, you know, and to exchange ideas and energy and all sorts of good stuff. So this could potentially be a really productive, good time when we get down to the end of this month. So maybe get some popcorn and enough to share with a friend. This month, it will be easier to feel mean, evil, and nasty. The challenge is to catch ourselves and raise ourselves up to the highest vibration we can. The transneptunians, Hades and Kronos, can give us the maximal expression for either one of those. And Chiron with the North Node in Aries is asking us to stop being cowards by attacking everything except the actual thing that scares the hell out of ourselves. The monsters we are fighting are the ones we're afraid to admit we have. So that is your February horoscope. It's not going to be an easy month, not by a long shot. We have work to do. So I'm going to, in a separate video, it'll be a very short video, I'm going to put together a little thing, and this is the exercise I want you guys to consider doing with me. One of the things that we know is that meditation or rinsing your brain, getting your mind right, has a lot to do with raising the consciousness of everyone around us. It's not just us that's affected by it, it's everyone around us. Elevates their consciousness when we elevate our own, right? So in another video, I will put together some information about experiments they've done with some statistics to support this, and just a little 5-minute meditation, and a bell will go off every minute, right? Because 5 minutes is a lot longer than you think it is. And we will work on an exercise that we can all together, right, contribute to the greater good by elevating our consciousness and bringing everybody else up with us. Because at the end of the day, no matter how powerless you feel, no matter how hopeless you feel, if we can get our minds right, we can do powerful things. And if we can get our minds right and work together, that's all you got to do. It's just meditate. We can do amazing things. And now more than ever is the time when we need to put up or shut up. If you believe that your mind and your thoughts can control and the trajectory of the future and manifest things in your life, then we can absolutely control the direction of the future and manifest good things for all of us. But you got to believe it, and then you got to do it. All right. So hope this was okay for you guys. Just got to get through it. All right. Talk to you later.